All you need is love. Love is all you need. Some words from the song All You Need Is Love, written by Paul McCartney and the late John Lennon of the world-famous rock group The Beatles, an English rock group formed in Liverpool in the 1960s. The 60s was the time when this thing called free love broke out. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Quote unquote, love was the mantra of the young people. Another song, What the World Needs Now, is love, sweet love is the only thing that there's just too little of. No, not just for some, but for everyone. This song was written by Burt Bacharach in the 60s. Both songs are so true. However, though the word love is correct, there is one problem. One deep, dark problem. God did create man in his image, which is love. But again, Adam and Eve chose Satan's temptation, which appealed to and placed selfishness into their DNA. And this is what we inherited, the imprint of Satan's selfish character. So our human understanding of love is totally opposite of what God, who is love, is all about. And these songs were written from a perspective of a world without God in the midst. The world's perspective of love is selfish, sensual, sentimentally saturated, and that is why sex was such a heavy part of this 1960s free love movement, and why Hollywood shows its sentimental, romance-filled picture of love. In order to understand real love, we need to look to God, who is love, and see what he has to say about it. What we are going to find out is that love is not a feeling, but a principle. Good feelings will come when we are synchronized with God's principles, but feelings are not the determiner that love is in its proper place. If selfishness would have never been accepted, the feelings would have always been on the good side. Now we have a battle of the flesh against the Spirit of God. Believe it or not, God's 10 Commandments, bar none, describe to us what God has to say about what love looks like. The law that he wrote with his fingers on Mount Sinai into stone, see Exodus 31:18 and Deuteronomy 9:10, describes what love is for him in the first 4 commandments and what love looks like to our human family on the second table with the last 6 commandments. Yes, it was written in stone. You know how they say, well, it's not written in stone, but that was written in stone by God's fingers. Jesus said this, summarizing the law in Matthew 22:36 through 40. Certain theologians try to separate and pick and choose what law is relevant in the New Testament, but Christ pulled it all together, letting us know that the love to God is the capital of love expressed, which are the first 4, but what God wrote with his fingers was not to be thrown away, and the last 6 describing love to man or humankind. James 2:10 said, whosoever keeps the law as a whole, but stumbles and offends in one single instance, has become guilty of breaking all of it. Why? Because the breaking of the law of God shows that the love that is expressed at the foundation of law is crumbled. The chain of love has a weak link. In 1 Corinthians 13, the Apostle Paul describes what love does and does not do. And this is the reality that happens when we have the Holy Spirit who gives us this fruit called love. In other words, without the Spirit of God, we cannot have this fruit. In our humanity, we from our flesh are selfish. We can do things loving, but the motivation will be selfish or selfishness. That is why the first few verses of 1 Corinthians 13 expresses God's thoughts when his love is missing. It says, if I can speak in the tongues of men and even of angels, I'm eloquent and sound wonderful and beautiful, but have not love, that reasoning, intentional, spiritual devotion, such as is inspired by God's love for and in us, I am only a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. The Message Bible says it's like a squeaky gate being opened. Verse 2, and if I have prophetic powers, the gift of interpreting the divine will and purpose, and understand all the secret truths and mysteries, and possess all knowledge, and if I have sufficient faith so that I can remove mountains, but have not love, God's love in me, I am nothing. I'm a useless nobody. Verse 3, even if I dole out all that I have to the poor and providing food. And if I surrender my body to be burned, or in order that I may glory but have not love, God's love in me, I gain nothing. Fanaticism can allow someone to be a martyr for the sake of gaining notoriety, fame, false heaven, or reward, and not love for God and fellow man. This is why God said in 1 Samuel 16:7, don't look at his appearance or the height of his stature, for the Lord sees not as man sees. For man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. We tend to get excited about how wonderful a person looks and are attracted to the beauty or the handsomeness or the wonderful skills and abilities or accomplishments of someone or what a person has. God is looking at the motivations, intentions, and choices of the mind and heart. The heart being the whole mind makeup, the conscience, the intellect. If the person has chosen God in the heart. The second part of 1 Corinthians 13 talks about what love, agape love, God's love will do. Verse 4, love endures long and is patient and kind. Love never is envious nor boils over with jealousy, is not boastful or vainglorious, does not display itself haughtily. On the term jealousy is talking about jealous of position or jealous of having what belongs to someone else and wishing it for yourself. There's a type of jealousy, God's jealousy, where in a committed relationship going toward marriage and in marriage, you seeing that person flirting or indicating some type of desire for another, that jealousy is correct. Verse 5, it is not conceited, arrogant, and inflated with pride. It is not rude, unmannerly, and does not act unbecomingly. Love, God's love in us, does not insist on its own rights, may even give up its rights or its own way. For it is not self-seeking, it is not touchy or fretful or resentful. It takes no account of the evil done to it. It pays no attention to a suffered wrong. Like we talked about in the IJS, self-esteem, pride overrides love. It does not rejoice at injustice and unrighteousness, but rejoices when right and truth prevail. That's verse 6. Verse 7, love bears up under anything and everything that comes, is ever ready to believe the best of every person. Its hopes are faithless under all circumstances, and it endures everything without weakening. That's verse 7. This is the kind of love that keeps us together in whatever relationship. Verse 8, love never fails, never fades out or becomes obsolete or comes to an end. Verse 13. And so faith, hope, love abide. Faith, conviction, and belief respecting man's relation to God and divine things. Hope, joyful and confident expectation of eternal salvation. Love, true affection for God and man, growing out of God's love for and in us. These three, but the greatest of these is love. Love is a full package. God's love has faith, trust, hope, joyful expectation, and love, which is true affection for God above all, and man, which grows out of God's love for us. So when you talk about love, this is the real thing, baby. This is the love that chases away fear, anxiety, depression, worry, and unsoundness of mind, because the Spirit of God is the one present who presents it and makes it real in us. See you next time on Thought Repair. God bless.